Srutakirti Prabhuji. So there comes the name of the book. What's the difficulty? Yes. So, and we see that whenever Prabhuji describes about Srila Prabhupada, these memories are so fresh in his heart as if they happened yesterday. In such great details, he can recall it was the year 1971, it was year 1973. It's like 50 years back. But those memories are so fresh. Why? Because of such deep love for Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhuji served as a president in Honolulu. And apart from that, he has served Srila Prabhupada so lovingly. We have seen so many photographs where he's massaging Srila Prabhupada. He's carrying his suitcase. He's serving him so personally, so lovingly. And that is, he's carrying those glories in his heart. And he's sharing those glories with all of us. So in terms of sharing the glories of Srila Prabhupada, he's Kohinoor diamond. Actually, sparkling, effulgent, illustrious. Yes. It's Srutakirti Prabhuji. So Shruta means to hear and Kirti means glories. So in case you want to hear the glories of the most glorious Acharya, our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, then of course none other than we have His Grace Srutakirti Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakopaturubhascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Guess I'll take a few minutes here along with my God brothers. As Prabhu was just saying, it's so wonderful, the association of devotees, which Srila Prabhupada has given us. He's done it in so many different ways. I thought I would just tell just one short story about Srila Prabhupada. As I said, he often was flying around the world constantly. One of those flights went from Mexico City to Caracas, Venezuela, a place he had never been before, but temple was there in Caracas. So it was a morning flight around breakfast time. And as I mentioned, Prabhupada always took prasadam on the plane. We always had a bag of prasadam. So one Mataji had made him mori, puffed rice. That was it. She had a brown paper bag. Inside the bag was aluminum foil, and there was just puffed rice in it. So we took it onto the plane. And of course, sitting down, as soon as the fasten seatbelt light goes off, time for prasadam. Then you can put the tables down. So I put Srila Prabhupada's table down and mine, and I opened up the bag and the aluminum foil and put it in front of Srila Prabhupada. You know, I always say, just watching Prabhupada do anything, you can become Krishna conscious, you know. You see the picture of him putting on tilak, just seeing that, watching him put tilak on every day, you could just see the devotion in Srila Prabhupada. Same thing when he took prasadam. And he chewed very, very well. I always say Prabhupada's mother would be very proud of him. I know when I was a child, they say 100 times, right, you chew your food. Prabhupada would chew, 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 but never touched his mouth. Even with the puffed rice, he'd push it in. So after he was finished, he left half of it. This is Prabhupada. Huh? He understood. He has 2 disciples next to him. We don't have anything to eat. And he knows what we were like. So he ate half of it, then he looked at me and said, okay. So then I moved it over to my place, and I ripped the aluminum foil in half so that Paramahamsa and I would each have half. Paramahamsa, he's at the aisle, I'm in the center seat. So now we're taking Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam, puffed rice. And this young stewardess is walking down the aisle. Now this is very early in the flight, just 10 minutes into the flight. And she stops right in front of us. Of course, we're all dressed, dhoti, kurta, shaved head, tilak. She's never seen any of this. Most everyone in South America had never seen devotees. But she stopped and looking at us. And then she reached into my plate. Not Paramahamsa's at the end seat. She literally reached into my plate, grabbed a handful of puffed rice, and started eating it. Prabhupada's not looking. Paramahamsa, he's eating. He doesn't care. I'm in shock. No one ever puts their hand in your plate. No one does that. What to speak of on an airplane? And she looks at me. She, oh, this is very good. What is it? I said, well, it's puffed rice. She says, well, why are you? I said, we're all vegetarian. And she said, can I bring you anything else? So I look at Prabhupada. Hot milk. Garam doodh. So I say, we'll all have hot milk. Again, whatever Prabhupada has, we have it very happily. So I say, we'll all have hot milk. And she says, would you want anything else? She said, I can go into first class. She said, and whatever you want. She said, I can get you cheese, bread, fruit. I look at Prabhupada. Prabhupada goes, I said, we'll all have cheese, bread, fruit. So she goes back up into the first class section, and I turn to Prabhupada. I said, Prabhupada, that was amazing. And I'm talking about her taking his remnants. And Prabhupada looked at me, he said, women have natural tendency to serve. So he's speaking about her getting the fruits and milk for us. He wasn't talking about what she had done, but I was saying it was amazing she took it. But he said it's women's natural tendency to serve. He says in Bhagavatam, easier for a woman to become Krishna conscious because they have a natural tendency to serve. Men, on the other hand, that natural tendency is not there. So she comes back with the cart, very happily she comes back and she gives us fruit, hot milk. And of course, again, we all watch Prabhupada, so he sanctifies everything by taking it first. It was the most amazing thing that my time with Prabhupada, I never saw anything like that. I mean, devotees would fight over Prabhupada's maha when I would go around after his lunch. They would fight over it. And she just grabbed it. So it's 20 years later. That was 1975. So now 1995, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm speaking to the devotees. We had Prabhupada Katha, so I gave a class. It was about 2 hours. And I'm ready to get up. And this devotee comes up to me. He said, can I tell you a story? I said, yes. He said, I've done Sankirtan book distribution all through South America, Mexico. He said, and we would go in jeeps because you would go to the villages. And much like here, and in the center of the village, the town squares, there would be usually a fresh water fountain like that. So they would go and do Harinam in the town center. And then they would get into their jeeps and they'd just drive. Sometimes you'd have to drive a few minutes from one place to the next, farms, ranches, like that. He said, so I went to this one place and knocked on the door. And this woman opens the door. He says, I'm in dhoti, kurta, shaved head. She opens the door, sees me. She says, Hare Krishna, come in. And he goes in the house and he sees a picture of Prabhupada. There's an altar there. And he's in shock. No one's ever been to any of these places. And he says, you're a devotee. She says, yes. She says, well, how did you meet the devotees? She said, well, I used to be a flight attendant. So she took a handful. This was the same woman. Out of billions of people in the world, this devotee goes to her house in the middle of nowhere and finds this devotee girl there. And she explains, I was a flight attendant. I saw these people dressed up. And she said, I don't know what happened. I took some puffed rice. She called it prasadam. She's a devotee. So this was the same person. So this is what Srila Prabhupada can do. This is what a pure devotee can do. She's been at Krishna Balaram Mandir. She came there a few years ago. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet her. I'm still waiting. I'm just dying to meet this lady who took Srila Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam. So I think I'll stop here. And next speaker. But thank you all very much. It's been wonderful being here. As I said, also Bhakti True Maharaja would always tell me to come here when he was here. And he was split. Sometimes he would say, you should come when I'm here. He said, so everything will go nicely. And then he'd say, well, maybe you should come when I'm not here. He said, because if I'm here, he said, it might interfere in your talking about Srila Prabhupada. Unfortunately, that was about 6 months before he left us. So, but I'm very happy to be here, and as long as you invite me, I'm eager to be here every year and get the association of all of you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.